Hello, welcome to Autism with Kenny, where autism is awesome, but also we talk about the struggles that come along with this experience. So, I wanted to share today, first of all, I recently got my diagnosis about a month ago, both ADHD and autism, and I've also been gifted all of my life. So today I wanted to talk about the experience of being in a classroom and having a different processing speed, different way of communicating than your neurotypical peers. So what I've experienced ever since elementary school was basically having a neurotype where that comes with a higher IQ, about one deviation above average, having autism, and being basically socially excluded from the neurotypical peers in the classroom. This has happened to me ever since first grade, and now I am in my first year of my PhD studies, and it's still happening. So I'd say, I'm like, in 19th grade now, so it's been consecutive years, and I've been in different educational settings. So when I was in a gen ed classroom, in my elementary years, basically what would happen is I would start getting bullied and labeled with things like smart aleck, which was really heartbreaking to hear. Things like teacher's pet, know-it-all. And I wonder if you have had similar experiences. The purpose of me making this YouTube video is I'm hoping to find like-minded community where we can talk openly about these struggles that people on the spectrum face, people with a neuroprofile that has higher processing speed, that perhaps is able to excel very well in an academic setting, but yet struggles significantly with social connection, integrating into a group, whether that's integrating into the classroom, integrating into a job, the workforce, or just integrating into a big group, a social group at a party, for example. I, of course, tend to be very blunt and straightforward, which is my preferred method of communication. And I am guessing, too, that I have a very monotone voice. So when I'm interacting with a neurotypical peer, for example today, and I am ready to get on task, for example, I can be very blunt. I am now 29 years old, and to be frank, I am completely exhausted. I don't have energy to continue masking. And also, given my recent diagnosis, I'm also exploring the freedom to not mask. So in this interaction, I was ready to get started. So the other person wanted feedback, and I was just like, yes, let's go. We got to the first question. I was working in a group, and I felt, I knew what the right answer was, but the other people had mixed opinions. And so ultimately what ended up happening is that I did have the correct answer. And there was a sense of social pushback and frustration when I have a hard time expressing this because of the social ostracization that comes with being blunt about my intellectual abilities. If I said, I had the correct answer and the other people had a negative reaction to it. This has happened, like I was mentioning, all of my life, where I was the first one to raise my hand, or I was consistently getting correct answers, and then exceeding to the point where I was getting highest test scores. I even got, it's so hard because people say like, oh, you're bragging, but my brain, I'm not trying to brag. I'm trying to share my experience with others, and that experience happens to be neurodivergent. And so when I say things like I got the highest test score in all of my state, people typically perceive that as either me bragging, or they can have what I'm guessing is like a trigger, like a emotional trigger or a damaging trigger to their ego, because people tend to compare themselves, right? And so I tend to have this effect on people where if I share something positive about my skills that I'm good at, they tend to shut down on me, sometimes shut down socially, where they no longer want to be my friend or even begin to establish a friendship. I've had bosses who would then ignore me and try to minimize my contributions to the workplace. Or I've had a complete group of coworkers that decided not to speak with me. And so, of course, this is very alienating. And have you experienced anything like this? You know, it makes me feel like I should just hide, continue to mask, not share my experiences with others. At the same time, it's very difficult because I want to genuinely share my experience with others. And I'm wondering, you know, if another autistic person were to come to me and tell me, hey, this is my IQ and it's higher than mine, I would like to think that I would react in a way where I appreciate them sharing that information about themselves, because now I can understand them better and get to know them better. So I would see it as a data point as opposed to a reason to exclude them. If anything, I would like them more because they're really cool and being direct with me and sharing cool information. But I guess other people don't see it that way. I do have a hard time understanding that. And so when I say things like bluntly, I have a hard time understanding how it comes off to other people. And so people will tell me, hey, maybe you should change your tone of voice. Maybe you should say things in a passive way. And that's just not conducive with my brain, right? I really like sharing things openly and in a forward way, but it keeps having these social exclusion effects. Have you experienced this? I'm hoping to build in this new YouTube channel a community where we can share our experiences with each other. I'm really hoping to find people that can understand me, or not that can, but that share similar experiences. See, sometimes, you know, I feel like my language is not the most effective and communicative, even though I've spent hours and hours studying social scripts and how to best verbalize myself. You know, it's very exhausting. Some people say that I am eloquent, you know, just even using that word, but I feel like it's because I've done so many hours behind the scenes of speaking practice. Anyway, that's a tangent, but I'm really also looking for some courage in the comments. You know, I'm very new to my diagnosis. I'm new to exploring the process of unmasking and not feeling the guilt and social pressure to mask. So I'm really hoping for courage in the comments to continue down this track. Have you had experiences like this? How do you deal with the pressure to mask? And of course, want to build a community of autistic people, and of course the comment section is open to everyone to share different points of view. Of course, I wish this would go without saying that we need to be respectful to one another, and we may not understand where one person is coming from, and that's okay. It's okay to ask follow-up questions, you know, have an inquisitive mind, but please, this is not a place for shame or guilt or anything negative, because this is a very sensitive topic for me, and I'm being, you know, very vulnerable in sharing this. And part of the reason I need to share this online is because I have a hard time finding people in my everyday life that have similar experiences. And so typically when I share something like this, it can be difficult to grasp like my inner perspective versus the outer effects that I have on people, and some people tend to prioritize the effects that I have on people. Like, you know, I think a lot about ABA therapy and how it trains people to act in the neurotypical standard, but I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be able to be who I truly am and not have to worry I'm not saying like, oh, I don't care about people anymore, but just being able to have an inclusive environment where hopefully people can begin to understand why I am the way I am, and that it is not meant for, you know, in any negative way. And I don't even know if that's possible. I'm still struggling with solutions to this problem. What are some social skills that you have used, or perhaps precursors? Are you open with your diagnosis? I currently am not. So just wanted to take some time to share this topic. I am looking forward to making more videos. You know, this video came today from a point of frustration because of not knowing what to do or who to communicate with on these social struggles that I'm facing when I'm inside of a classroom and I am exceeding over my peers because of my abilities. And those are like things that are in my special interest. Those are things that I'm good at, but then I'm not good at other things, right? And I know some people in the community have said, well, remind people, hey, like I might be good at this, but I'm not good at keeping a schedule, for example. So when people are seeing the parts of my brain that are functioning at a above average speed, then they don't get to see all of the meltdowns and burnout that I'm experiencing underneath. So it's not an accurate representation, right, of me and social inclusion. So I'm just wondering, have you felt something like this before? Have you felt the effects of people, either explicitly bullying you, or I have a hard time picking up social cues. So I'm wondering, are they judging me in some sort of way? That's another thing that I struggle with. I can't fully understand if the person is having a negative reaction to me and to what I'm saying. I'm trying my best to pick up on like body cues or people looking away or moving away from me. And I do feel like sometimes my peers in classrooms, when they experience me having the answer ready, for example, and they're still struggling a little bit, which is nothing wrong with that, of course, they tend to not want to pair up with me again, or I'm not included in group chats, or I'm not included in social outings. And sometimes that's okay because I have a low social battery, but still these things do affect me, and I'm not sure if I should continue to hide, right, behind the mask of being pleasant and not sharing my true skills, or leaning into, okay, well, this is who I am, this is how my brain works, and not worrying about the social fallback. And it's not that I don't want to worry about it, it's just that I struggle with it a lot, right? So sometimes it's very tempting to be like, well, there's nothing I can do about it. So what are some things that have worked for you to create more social cohesion while still being able to be yourself and express yourself to the full capacity or your full abilities, right? Because when I'm not able to express myself in my strengths, it tends to cause me to shut down, and then I just become completely burnt out and not being able to function in any part of my life. And so this is a very complicated topic for me because I feel like there's not a lot of representation in my current worldview of people with disabilities that are on the higher side of the IQ spectrum, because perhaps those IQ skills have been able to, mitigate or mask some of the social difficulties. I'm not entirely sure. I am a late diagnosed autistic. I'm 29 years old and I just received my diagnosis, so that is some data for yes. Sometimes functioning higher can lead to a late diagnosis, but now I'm starting to make sense of why I experienced so much bullying in my elementary school. What do I do about this? Do I continue to be blunt? Of course, I don't want to keep masking. So please share in the comments your experience with this. I'm looking forward to making more videos about my autism experience, and my neurotype, and I'm just happy that I have a space. So thank you for being here and sharing in this community. I hope that my video resonated with you. Thank you again, and I'll see you in the next one.